Karen's sneer could curdle milk, and her sister Darlene's voice was a megaphone of entitlement. They stood like twin gargoyles, blocking a special needs van in the HOA's pristine cul-de-sac, blissfully unaware their reign of petty tyranny was about to crash. It was a muggy Tuesday evening in Willow Creek, a suburban enclave where manicured lawns and unspoken rules reigned supreme. Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, waddled out of her McMansion, her floral muumuu flapping like a warning flag. At 300 pounds, she moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. Darlene, her slightly leaner but equally insufferable sister, trailed behind, clutching a clipboard like it was the Constitution. Their mission? To enforce the HOA's sacred parking ordinance, which Karen had personally rewritten to ban unsightly vehicles from the street. The target today was a battered white van, its side emblazoned with Sunshine Care Services, parked in front of Mrs. Delaney's house. The van belonged to Mike, a soft-spoken driver who ferried special needs kids to therapy appointments. He'd parked there for 10 minutes to help Mrs. Delaney's grandson, Tommy, a nonverbal 12-year-old with autism, into the house. Tommy's wheelchair ramp was still extended when Karen's shadow loomed over the driveway. "This eyesore has got to go," Karen barked, her voice echoing off the cookie-cutter houses. She planted herself in front of the van, arms crossed, chins quivering. "You're violating Section 3, Clause B of the HOA Code. No commercial vehicles after 6 p.m. Mike, leaning out the driver's window, pinched the bridge of his nose. "Ma'am, I'm just dropping off a kid. I'll be gone in 5 minutes. 5 minutes too long," Darlene chimed in, waving her clipboard like a battle flag. "We've got standards here. You think you can just roll in with this rust bucket and ruin our property values?" The neighbors began to gather, drawn by the commotion. Mrs. Delaney, a frail woman in her 70s, stood on her porch, clutching Tommy's hand. Across the street, Javier, a landscaper who'd tangled with Karen before, leaned against his truck, shaking his head. A teenage girl, Lily, filmed the scene on her phone, her eyes wide with secondhand embarrassment. Karen, sensing an audience, doubled down. "This is a community for decent people, not for whatever this is." She gestured at the van like it was a biohazard. "Move it, or I'm calling the tow company." Mike's jaw tightened. He'd dealt with Karens before, but this one was a Category 5. "Lady, I'm transporting a disabled kid. Have some compassion." "Compassion?" Karen scoffed, her laugh like nails on a chalkboard. "Don't lecture me about compassion when you're trashing our neighborhood. I bet you don't even live here." Darlene nodded vigorously. "Probably some lowlife from the apartments across town. We don't need your kind here." The cruelty in their words hung heavy in the air. Mrs. Delaney's eyes welled up, and Tommy rocked anxiously, his hands flapping. Javier muttered something in Spanish, his fists clenched. Lily's camera kept rolling, capturing every venomous syllable. What Karen and Darlene didn't know was that Mike wasn't just a driver. He was a former Marine, a man who'd seen combat and carried the weight of it quietly. More importantly, he had friends like Officer Ray Carter, a SWAT team leader who happened to be on duty that evening. Mike's radio, clipped to the dashboard, crackled softly. He hadn't touched it yet, but Ray was already listening, having caught wind of a disturbance in Willow Creek from a concerned neighbor's 911 call. Karen, oblivious, escalated. She pulled out her phone and dialed the tow company, her voice dripping with smug satisfaction. "Yes, hello, I need an illegal vehicle removed from 142 Willow Creek Drive. It's a hideous white van. Hurry, please." Mike's patience snapped. He stepped out of the van, a lean figure in a faded polo, his eyes burning with controlled fury. "You're really going to tow a van for disabled kids? Over a parking rule?" "It's not about the kids," Darlene shrieked. "It's about respect. You don't respect our community." The irony was thicker than Karen's waistline. Respect was the last thing she and Darlene had ever shown anyone. They'd bullied neighbors over mailbox colors, fined single moms for overgrown grass, and once reported Javier for suspicious loitering while he mowed their own lawn. Their reign of terror had gone unchecked for years, fueled by the HOA's spineless board and the neighbors' fear of confrontation. But today was different. Mike reached for the radio. "Ray, you there?" he said, his voice calm but edged with steel. The radio crackled. "Yo, Mike, what's up? Heard there's some drama in Willow Creek." Karen's eyes narrowed. "Who are you talking to? Somebody to back you up? Won't help you, buddy." Mike ignored her. "Ray, I've got 2 women blocking my van. Special needs transport. They're threatening to tow it. Might need you to swing by." "On my way." Ray's voice boomed through the speaker, crisp and authoritative. "Sit tight." Karen's smirk faltered, but she recovered quickly. "You think you can scare us with your little radio stunt? I'm calling the cops myself." She did, and that was her second mistake. The first was assuming Mike was just a driver. The 911 operator patched her through to the local precinct, where Ray, already en route, picked up the call. His SWAT team was in the area for a training exercise, and he was in no mood for Karen's nonsense. Minutes later, the street rumbled with the arrival of a black tactical van. Ray stepped out, a mountain of a man in full SWAT gear, his badge gleaming under the streetlights. The neighbors gasped. Lily's phone nearly slipped from her hands. Karen and Darlene froze, their faces a mix of confusion and dawning panic. "Evening, folks," Ray said, his voice calm but carrying the weight of authority. "Got a report of a disturbance. Mind explaining why you're blocking a medical transport?" Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. This is our neighborhood. He's violating HOA rules." Ray raised an eyebrow, glancing at the van's Sunshine Care Services logo. "HOA rules. You're obstructing a vehicle for disabled children. That's not just petty, it's illegal." Darlene, never one to back down, jabbed a finger at Ray. "You can't talk to us like that. We're taxpayers. We'll have your badge." Ray's laugh was low and dangerous. "Ma'am, I'm with SWAT. My badge isn't going anywhere. But you might be, if you don't step aside." The crowd murmured. Javier smirked. Mrs. Delaney wiped her eyes, a flicker of hope on her face. Tommy, sensing the shift, calmed slightly, his hands stilling. Karen, red-faced and sweating, tried to pivot. "We're just protecting our community. This van is doing more for this community than you ever have." Mike cut in, his voice quiet but piercing. "You don't get to play dictator because you've got a clipboard and a grudge." The truth landed like a slap. Karen's eyes darted to the neighbors, searching for support, but found none. Lily's video was already streaming to her followers, the comments flooding with fire emojis and calls for justice. Javier stepped forward, his voice steady. "They've been bullying us for years. It's time someone stood up to them." Ray nodded. "Here's the deal. You move, or I cite you for obstruction. And trust me, I've got better things to do than deal with HOA nonsense." Karen and Darlene, cornered, backed away, their bravado crumbling. The tow truck arrived, but Ray waved it off with a single gesture. Mike climbed back into the van, helping Tommy's ramp retract. Mrs. Delaney hugged her grandson, whispering thanks to Mike. As Ray escorted the sisters to their house, he added, "Expect a visit from the city tomorrow. Your HOA's getting audited. I hear you've been finding people without permits." Karen's face went white. Darlene's clipboard slipped to the ground. The neighbors erupted in cheers, a wave of relief washing over Willow Creek. Lily's video went viral by morning, dubbed Karen's Karma. The HOA was dissolved a month later, and Karen and Darlene, humiliated, sold their house and moved away. Mike drove off into the dusk, the van's engine humming softly. He'd never wanted a fight, but he'd won one for the kids he served. For Tommy, for Mrs. Delaney, for every neighbor who'd lived under the sisters' thumb, it was a victory that tasted sweeter than any HOA fine could sour. The end.